Hey, how's everyone doing out there? This is Marcus Thomas, Yellow Nation Motivation, and I wanted to discuss something that I was reading yesterday. I thought was really important. I enjoyed it a lot, and I hope that y'all do too. The topic today is force your mind to mature. That we have to force ourselves to mature. So this is an important one for me because this is one of my main downfalls and things that held me back. So I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. I still fight with this every day. And it's something that I got to keep working at, and I hope that everybody else do too. So it's see, your body will automatically grow. So when you were 5 years old, you were small. You were a child, but as you aged, you got bigger. So in a sense, just living, you will grow. But the same can't really be said for your mind. The only way is to force it to grow. You force it to grow by what you see, but also by what you put into it. See, what influences it is what you see, understand, and say. And that's a really important part of it. It's important to understand, it's that concept. A verse that I read the other day I thought was really important, and it fit right in with this. It's in Corinthians verse 13 chapter 11, and it was Apostle Paul talking, and he said, when I was a child, I speaketh like a child. I understood as a child and I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away my childish things. See, I feel like there's many adults still working against themselves because they're still walking around doing those three things. This is what holds us back in so many categories in our life. See, people get stuck in a childlike state, but with adult features. So just because you act like a child doesn't mean that the world will treat you like one. You grown. So we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. But see, the three things that keep us at this point, is one of the main things. I think if I had to pick one, I would say thought as a child. So I had to understand that if I think like a child and I talk like a child, I'm going to see things like a child. I won't understand, and the way that I interpret the world will be different from other people who don't see things like a child. You have to force your mind to grow. Because if you keep seeing things like a child, what do we always think when a child gets in trouble or if something happens to a child? We immediately categorize that child as a victim. So, in essence, if we walk around with that mentality, we open up the door for us to feel like a victim about everything because a child is so vulnerable. And so, if you're an adult, you're saying you walking around with the same vulnerability as a child? So see, how we think connects to how we speak. So the way that you talk is just a reflection of what you have in your heart. See, out of the abundance of our heart, the mouth speaketh. So why people speak so negatively and have such a bad disposition is because in their heart, that's how they feel. And a lot of time it's mostly about themselves. See, but until you stop talking negatively about you and others and your circumstances, it's not going to get any better for you. The first thing sounds simple, but for most of us, is not. We simply just got to shut up sometimes, and I know that's not easy for a lot of people to do. But another thing that I read in the Bible was that literally the power of life and death lies in our tongue. So, have you ever noticed that the more you say, I'm tired or I can't do something, that it comes true and you stay tired? And another one that I read that I thought was really important was that confessions is made unto salvation. So that means most problem solving is done by speaking it, by believing it and saying it out loud. So to me, that means you talk in the direction that you're going, not where you're at and not where you've been, but where you're on your way to. You must speak creatively. See, that also means people around you who speak negatively, you got to get them out of your life. You don't need anybody around you who's not constantly pushing to go forward, because those negative Nancy's, they never going to do you any good. They're good to take up some time and gossip, but time is the most valuable thing we have. So we don't even have time to sit around and listen to them. We got to keep going forward. See, and the other thing is you're known by who you buy. So if you're around a lot of negative people, eventually you yourself will start becoming that way. And see, because when people talk so negatively like that, the first thing that you should understand is that spiritually they're immature, but they are people who waste the most precious commodity that we have, is time. And that's why I only want to talk to people who are going somewhere, who are optimistic about the future. See, when you hang around people that is positive and they want more out of life, your vocabulary will change. And I believe if you change your vocabulary, then, you'll change, because it'll change your perspective. And I feel like it limits us sometimes if we don't keep pushing our mind, because how you going to change your vocabulary and change your perspective on things if you never change your mind on where you're going to go? And you got to understand that that means loved ones too. You have to understand that even if it's the closest person to you, if they're not good for you, they got to go. See, because this will affect people around you when you increase your vocabulary. Your family, your children will understand better and look at life in a more positive way. See, if you talk like a slave, you will always live like one. It simple boils down to we must grow up. You got to grow up. See, we attract what we have inside. And the thing, I hear a lot about relationships, and it makes me laugh, because it's like, what would a king do? What would a queen do? Why would a king or a queen want a peasant? You see? So if you don't improve how are you going to improve how you think, what you have in your heart, and how you understand it all? If we keep waiting on this magical person to come along and give worth to us, we might as well just quit on life now. See, because it's not by the might or favor or luck, it's by your spirit. You can't beg up on a career. You can't fall into a good woman or a man. See, it's your mind, and in the way that you must force yourself to mature. See, you don't have to be bound by your family. You can do so much more than whatever you think your generational curse is. I hear a lot of people say, well, my mama, my daddy, my this, my that, that's just an excuse. You are allowing excuses to control where you think you can go. So decide. You got to decide to refuse to be ordinary and push your maturity so far that your past is just a distant memory, that you don't even hold yourself to that no more. So I think it's up to us more than anything. If we're going to change our life, we have to start with what we think, because what we think is connected to what we see, and then what we see is how we perceive it, is how we're going to understand it, which comes right back to our mind. So we're going to see a lot of negativity and a lot of things in this world, but how do you perceive it, and how do you internalize it, and how does it affect you? And I think that's up to us. That's nobody else's problem. And more importantly, if you're a leader or you're somebody who's trying to influence this world and go somewhere, then you got to understand that you have to set the example. It's not ever going to be fair for a leader, and that's just the way the world works. So that's all I have for today. As always, this was mostly for me, but if I can help somebody else through this, then I'm really happy about that. Um, Thank you for all the support. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna drop some links down below, and I love you all. And let's just please go and be great.